Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Space Snacks. And it is my pleasure to talk to you about Ron Sparkman. Ron is the founder of Stardom, and that is, we're going to get into that in a minute here. And he's also the Chief Curiosity Correspondent for the Space Foundation Discovery Center and Communication and Social Media Manager for Explore Mars. So let's get going and bring us both in here. Ron, I was saying before that I can't believe we haven't met or hooked up or talked before now. This is our first communication.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about it too. I've heard so many great things about you from so many different people. Especially, it's always fun to be in the media, to be like putting out space news everywhere. I've shared a lot of news about you in the last few months with everything that you were doing with Sensoria. So it's kind of cool to be like, hey, you want to talk? Of course I do. Yes.
One of the things is about the space community, a lot of times I hear is that the space community is small, but when you're first getting in it, learning who people are and connecting. And it's funny how when you meet one person, it connects you to 20 new people and you're like, whoa, wait, who's this person?
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you about your space story. How did you get into space? Why space?
Sure. So it was 6 years ago last month. Like I actually got it pretty much to the day.
Really?
Yeah. So it was I had sat down one evening and I didn't really have much to do. I was off from work. This was back when I was DJing, and I was just, it'd been a pretty rough time in my life, and so there was a lot going on, and I was trying to really figure out what was next. Money was good, and everybody's like, "Oh, if you have money, it's fine." No, it's not fine. Money matters if you need it, but if you have it, you realize that it's not going to solve all of your problems, right? And so I sat down and I was just kind of hanging out, and I turned on the TV and I saw a preview for a show, and I'm like, wow, like the graphics in that, like the CGI in that looks pretty cool. And so I think I'll sit down and watch it and give it a chance. I don't know what it is. Let me see what it is. That show was Cosmos, and it was the new one with Neil deGrasse Tyson. So
wow.
I didn't know who Neil was. Yeah, I didn't know who Neil was. I'd heard of Carl Sagan a little bit, but I didn't really know him. And if you were to ask me all the planets in order, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell them to you. And I didn't really understand what was out there in the world, like, well, not in the world, but in the cosmos. And I watched that first 15 minutes, and it was over. It was over. I was done. I had no idea like what I was missing, what was like out there for me, and I just absolutely fell in love with it, and I became obsessed after that. But yeah, that's where it all started.
Well, that's so interesting. And so I got to follow up with, what did you do next? So you're watching this show, you're like, what? This is blowing my mind. And so you're DJing and, things are good. Mm-hmm. What did you just turned your life upside down?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So I like to say that I did a 165. Like, there's still part of me that's there. I still love to go out with my friends and have a good time. I've still got that side of me that's there, but I started coming home earlier. I wasn't out as late. I started looking at different things and wanting to spend my money in different places. When I was on Netflix, I was looking for all the different TV shows that would allow me to know what's next. Because, Cosmos is a weekly show, right? So I watched the very first episode, and once I saw it, so the cosmic calendar was the first part of it. Then kind of the story of Bruno and how he found out some things. And then the next part when he talks about the cosmic calendar, and he puts the entirety of the 13.8 billion years that the universe has been around into like a year. And just, we've only been here for the last minute on the last day. And it's just all this mind-blowing stuff. And I'm like, I have to know more. Where can I find more at? And so I'm a really visual type of person. So I started looking visual and auditory. So I was looking into TV shows, audiobooks, things like that. And that is kind of the beginning of kind of really what started Stardom, as like being somebody that was completely ignorant to space and science. I wanted to have a place where I could put all these resources in just like basically one solid page of, here's the museums you should go to. Here's some like websites you can check out. Here's some shows you can watch. And that's kind of the beginning of what ended up becoming Stardom.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. That's so cool. I never would have guessed that you've only been doing space exploration stuff for the last 6 years. because you're so versed, you're so connected, you're so excited, which is one of the key things. And I love the things that you do. And I want to give a shout out to you because I was watching you live. As a science communicator, you're fantastic.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I was watching one of your live broadcasts a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, man, I think I can do that. I'm gonna do a Facebook Live. I'm just gonna do a show.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're here talking now, is because you
see. I don't know if you can tell or not. I don't have a whole lot of body hair.
But it's kind of like you watching Cosmos. And I've done television stuff and I've done things, but I've never done Facebook Live or anything like this. And it's been on my mind, and seeing you do it so well and with such ease, I was just like, wow, that is really cool. I think I can do this. I'm going to see what it's like. And here we are talking.
That's one of the most amazing things about this, is that there's so many people that I've got to connect with and talk to. And the whole thing for me is that, I was a high school dropout. I'm only in community college, and I get to work in the space industry full time. I mean, it's my goal to get a PhD in astrophysics eventually, but this is just an industry that if they see a skill set in you, if they see something, they are more than willing to see how you can be a part of it, because space needs more people. We need more space evangelists that are out there. But there's also a place for so many people. If you look at someone like, say, the creator of Universe Today, Fraser Cain, who was a computer programmer, if I remember correctly. And so he just was, I want to create a website online that shows people space the way that I want to see it. So I'm going to build this thing and make it. Now he's just one of the top, it's one of the top space websites in the world. And there's so many people that are out there like that. And it doesn't matter who you are, you have the ability to possibly inspire somebody, even somebody like Dr. Proctor. So it's a pretty amazing thing to just be involved in this and be able to share it. And I just love every minute of it, man. I've had some really, really great jobs, but this one's probably been my favorite so far.
You mentioned the community college, and I'm a community college professor, and you are my favorite type of student. Just somebody who's kind of been out there doing things in the world and finds their passion and needs to go back to school, and then I'm there to help them succeed. I love that.
Yeah, and I think there's so many people that self-driven education is the big one. That's the thing that we have it beaten. So I just saw one of the comments there. JJ said she was here for Mr. Pineapple. It's an inside joke. We'll get to that. So
I saw you guys in that broadcast.
Okay, perfect. So I'm letting you know what it is. So now I've lost my train of thought. Thank you, JJ. I appreciate that. I needed to laugh.
But going to the community college to get some of the classes that you needed. Yeah.
So it was just I think that whenever you have that self-driven, that passion that takes you over, that makes you really get into something that you love, it allows you to get past whatever it was. I mean, we're all born scientists. Whenever we're little, we all want to, play in the dirt and go outside until there's a reason not to. Maybe it's a helicopter parent. Maybe we're allergic to something like that. I was allergic to everything as a kid. Like I had a pet turtle because I was allergic to dogs and cats and stuff. There was all kinds of stuff that was wrong with me when I was little. So there was just one of those things. I kind of lost that interest in being an explorer, being an adventurer, and a wanderer. And science started to give me that back for a little bit. And then there was just a lot of stuff that was going on in school, and I ended up dropping out. But going back after something inspired me to, I always said I was going to go back and be a paleontologist. I wanted to go. I'll DJ till I'm 50 or 60 years old. I'll go back and get my degree, and then like from 70 to 90, I'll go play in the dirt somewhere.
I love that.
That'll be fun. And this thing just came and got me, and I just, when you fall, what was it Carl Sagan said? Like, whenever you fall in love with something, you have to tell the world, well, I'm in love with you. So it's one of those things. Yeah.
Well, it all wraps together, though, between the history of the Earth and the stars and the universe. It's all together. And so thinking about space and space exploration, I want to get to where you would want to go now that you are a space explorer. Are you a moon guy? Are you the ISS? Are you Mars, low Earth orbit, Earth?
I mean, and I knew this question was coming, and to tell you the truth, it's almost all of them. space inspired in me to want to explore, to go out and see the world. And it's something that I wasn't expecting, but it ended up being that, okay, if I want to go out and explore, the solar system, I want to go suborbital space, or I want to go to the moon, I want to go to Mars, where's the best place to train for that? To do something very similar to what you've done with analog stuff. I just want to travel the world, see what's out there. There's very many places on this world that are alien to us. We're shocked when we see them. To see to see Chitwan National Park in Nepal, and to ride on an elephant, and to go on like a little bit of a kind of like walk through the jungle. They're like, oh, there's a tiger track. There's a what? It's like you and two other people, and he's just got a big stick. I'm like, you're his snack. What's going to happen? So it's a really amazing thing to get out there and just really soak up the world and get different points of view, and see, one, how good we've really got it. And then also realize that this is a world that we're capable of taking better care of, but it's also a place that this isn't all that's out there for us. What is it? We're the foam on the ocean of the cosmic shore, or something like that. However Carl said it. But the big one for me is Mars. That's one of the reasons I think that I work with so many different Mars organizations. I'm the co-creator of I Love Mars. I'm one of the podcast hosts for Mars Society's Red Planet Radio, and then I'm the communications and social media manager. And that's not the only parts of the job with Explore Mars. We are a small group of people, and I love the fact that I get to work with every call that I'm on. The president and the CEO are on too, and it's just, they're all about ideas. We're a small organization, and that makes it really cool. It's a really fun thing to be a part of. But Mars is just amazing to me. Like, that's the next one. Perfect timing, Tanya Harrison, Tanya. It's that. So, that's the dream, though. I don't have to be the first or the 1,000th person on Mars, but I want to be in that first million that Elon talks about.
Well, what is it about Mars that just calls to you?
Oh, I think it's just the idea that it's what we've all wanted to do. So what did you look at the first few people that went to the moon? Buzz is almost 90 now, and or he is 90. And what is his main thing? He wants us to to get our butts to Mars. He thinks it's something we should have been doing forever. Like, it's the next place that we can really go. And of course, the moon's great, and I really want us to go back there. I can't wait for suborbital space flight. I can't imagine what's going to happen when thousands, eventually tens of thousands of people have got the the overview effect. They see the Earth from space, and what that's going to change. I think space is going to space and making space more regular is going to help us in wanting to take better care of this planet, and also getting out there to the rest of them. So, but there's something about Mars. It's just that it's the next big thing. It's that explorer, that wanderer in all of us, that's where we want to go next. And then from there, where do we launch onto there? Because really, if my real answer is, I want to see us get to the technology. I want to go fishing on Europa and lean back in my space suit on my lawn chair and look out at Jupiter and be like, that's beautiful. Now I'm going to die of radiation poisoning.
It's so true. I don't know if you're a sci-fi fan, but I watch The Expanse, and I'm just like, oh, it's so great. And even that Star Trek, I've been watching Picard and just dreaming of those types of adventures.
Wasn't there something you were doing recently on Yuris Night, talking to somebody from
Cass Amber, me and Tanya? Yes,
that's right. So, my job.
I know. I'm like, I remember when I got the text, and I'm like, wait, what? Who am I texting with? Who wants to talk to me? I was like, this is crazy.
I love the way that he that was what I mean, really, and I was quite serious about it. I loved the way that went, because normally when you think, okay, there's going to be a famous person in this conversation, you might think it's going to steer more towards them. But it didn't really happen at all that night. Like, there was him, there was Robert Picardo. It was all like, tell me more about it. Like, I get to be the cool sci-fi guy, and I love space and science, but tell me about, no, I need to know more about your perspective. Like, I want to soak all that up, and this is what I think, but I want more from you two. That was a really cool thing for the world to be able to see, and free to open to everyone. And I really love what he puts out there, Robert, and other people like him that are just, space is just, it's amazing. It's great.
I know. It was such an honor to be a part of that. And when I'm thinking about, space exploration and Mars, and then when it comes to, of course, food. So if you're going to go to Mars and you're going to have a meal, who are you eating that meal with? And what meal is it that you're having?
Okay, so who am I eating the meal with? That's a really good question, because I mean, I know that you asked me that, but I didn't realize that I was gonna, eat that meal there with that person. So my original one would be what I said was Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like every time I get to have a conversation with him, it's always like it just started. I can look up, and this is pretty much anybody that I know that's met him before, is that you see him and you kind of talk to him, and then just time flies by. And whenever he talks about being, everybody's own personal astrophysicist, it's the truth. He loves to just take people's questions and kind of pick brains, but he also likes to ask questions about you and learn the things that you know. He's really cool about that. And so I thought that would be pretty amazing to kind of sit there and say, hey, we're on Mars. Let's talk about it. One, you thought that we weren't going to get to Mars, so haha. You don't often get to say Neil deGrasse Tyson, I told you so. But that would be kind of a fun thing to do.
I had to steal this photo because I love it. And it was that interview where I was like, this is so good, that made me want to interview people. I was like, I loved it. And
I'm very glad to hear that.
Yeah. I love the banter between you. I love the history, the inspiration, Cosmos, all of that kind of coming together. And so if you could go, have you ever had dinner with him?
So not exactly. So I'm part of the StarTalk Patreon, and really there's a lot of people that have some really cool things in the pledges that you can put. But theirs was at the $50 level and higher. Each one got cooler. One was like at the I think it was the $50 level. If you got to go to one of the shows, you got to go backstage and talk to like whoever it was that was there that night. So like Bill Nye. Bill Nye was one of them. So the first one I went to, I got to go backstage, meet Bill Nye, talk to him about some stuff. That was, one of those really crazy cool things. And then each level up, you get to do more and more cool things. Well, one of them is you get to go to the yearly Saturnalia party, where like it's Neil and a bunch of the other science communicators that were the hosts for StarTalk, not Star Trek, StarTalk All Stars. And everybody got to hang out there, and you would kind of, have a couple drinks. There was, like finger foods and stuff, and you could just kind of hang out and BS. And then, there was a professional photographer, which is, that picture Justin Starr took. And so it's just a really fun atmosphere with a bunch of nerds. And then at one point in the evening, Chuck and Neil sit down, and then we get to come up and kind of have like our own private personal Star Talk. They'll record it, but nobody else really gets to see it unless you're part of like that Star Talk group, right? So you get to go up and hang out, pick his brain, ask questions, and it's not often. Most of the time, it's not just him. It's like him and like Jan 11 and David Grinspoon and other people, and it's just the coolest thing in the world. So I got to go to a couple of those different parties, and eventually I was just like, man, it'd be really cool if I could interview you someday. And he's like, sure, sounds good. I'm like, really? It's like, cool. Thanks. I'm going to go over here and try not to cry.
That is so great.
Yeah.
And so what would you want to eat with him?
Oh, so we were talking about what I would want to eat on Mars, and this is where I want to get into the foodie side of things. Like, I've not been there yet, and I would love to, but I'm a big Tom Skeller fan. So I would be like the full ride at the French Laundry. Like, I want the 23-course meal. Like, we got to Mars, let's eat and drink for 6 hours.
That when I saw that, I was like, yes! Like, that is the epic meal. I was so excited.
That's like the best meal in the US, right?
I'm like, such a great answer. And so those of you guys that don't know that, you can Google it, the French Laundry, and meal, and just enjoying every minute of that. One of the things that I wanted to get into was, are you a cook or a baker, or do you like to dabble? Do you take out? What is that?
So it's definitely a mixture. Like for a very long time, I didn't know how to cook for anybody really other than myself. I've been a loner for a very long time, which is kind of ends up being funny to people. But I do actually like to spend a lot of time by myself. And especially when I was in health and fitness when I was younger, I taught myself how to make the things that I really loved, junk food wise, in a healthy way. But I learned how to make it just for me. So that was kind of one of those things. But as I've had more time and fallen more and more in love with that, because of Anthony Bourdain was the reason that I really started falling in love with the culinary world and the ideas of all that stuff. Because he reminds me a little bit of me when I read those stories and I hear about what the 70s, 80s, and 90s were like in the backroom kitchens with those kind of, the raconteurs and stuff, that's very similar to what you see in the nightclub industry. You're going to meet a whole lot of people that are, heavy drinkers and partiers and stay out all night, and they've got crazy stories, and it really, really is. It's pure madness in one of the, the best ways, like beautiful chaos. And so I kind of fell in love with the stuff that he did. And so it made me start getting into these other things. I would love to take cooking classes. Like that and art and stuff is very definitely kind of what I want to play around with more. If I looked at that next passion, that would be something I would really want to do. But right now, there's a lot of DoorDash and heavy tipping right now. Instacart, like I'm not going to go to the store, but here's $12. Thank you for bringing my stuff.
I was talking to John Conifay the other day. He was on here, and we were talking about that too, about cooking classes and traveling, and just how it's so much fun to combine those two things, because you get so much into the local cuisine. And you mentioned Anthony Bourdain, and just that whole idea of food and travel, and that experience, and what that does for your soul. And so thinking about that, do you have a favorite meal that you like to prepare at home or eat?
Yeah, I mean, the main one that I always go to is, and this always reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother had like a couple of different dishes. I have never attempted to make her meatloaf. I don't know what would come out. I might kill it, or I might kill it. It might come out burnt. But one of the things that I found that I was pretty good at making was eggs. So I'm really big on, I can eat eggs 2 or 3 times a day. I figured that out when I was really into fitness. Obviously not there now. Thanks, quarantine. But it's one of those things I still love, to have like, a 3-egg omelet and some toast and jelly, man. Reminds me of when I was younger. It's very definitely comfort food for me that makes me think back to the good old days. Like, all right, Mama, I'm going to go and watch X-Men in the living room now,
The omelet, it's so versatile, and the things that you can do with it, because you can put all kinds of stuff in it or eat around it. So is there something particular that you like to put with your omelet or in your omelet?
I like spicy stuff. So it's a pepper jack cheese sometimes. Sometimes it's hot sauce. So I kind of jump around in there. And sometimes it's just, I'm just going to eat some eggs. So scrambled was my thing for a long time. But I enjoy the kind of like the delicate touch that you have to do. Like it takes some time to master the omelet, right? To really get it right. And I've been really messing around with it for about the last 8 months. I can still screw it up pretty easy.
Do you have any tips though? Have you learned anything about how do you make the perfect omelet?
Don't make it as soon as you get out of bed. Like wait till you got your wits about you before you attempt to do something and make it that right. And here's the thing. I know that I make it the way that I like it. I've never given it to anybody else. So they might be like, I don't know what this is, but this is an omelet. So
I recently have been trying to make myself little omelets in a cast iron skillet. And so it's been really interesting to be able to kind of like get it so it cooks up and fluffs up just right, and then flipping it over and then adding whatever I want to add, cheese and stuff like that. And so that's been a fun experiment for me.
I would be interested how you do it in a cast iron skillet without it sticking to the pan.
It doesn't, surprisingly. Well, I put olive oil in a little bit, or some kind of oil, and it coats the bottom. And then with the temperature of the pan, the omelet just kind of fluffs up. And around the edge, I take like a spatula and I edge it, and it allows it to just kind of cook. And you got to cook it until it's almost done, and then you flip it over.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I think we got a cast iron, and that's one of the ones I really want to play around with too. Like when it comes to like steak cookery, I know that's one. Like my buddy, one of the guys that was kind of helping me out, he's been awesome. So there was a lot of stuff until space I didn't do. Like I didn't drive till I was well into my 30s. I'd never gone. I never shot a gun. I'd never been fishing, any of that stuff, and I've done all that stuff since space happened. So like playing around, like he's a pretty decent cook, and he used to make dinner and stuff for us all the time. It was always great, and. So he was showing me a couple months back. He's like, man, I got this really great way to make a steak. And so came over, he bought the steaks, and we just sat and cooked and just kind of had like a little brotherly companionship and hung out. And it was really, really fun. But yeah, so I don't have a cast iron skillet. I got to get one. So
yeah, you can buy these little pans. And it's funny because I was at a place that they had a chef that was making them, and they were making them in that little pan. And I was like, oh, I got to try that. I gotta see how this works, and so far it's been pretty cool. So I definitely recommend it.
I'm gonna have to. Maybe we'll have to do like another live, and you teach me how to cook an omelet.
Oh,
and
I definitely. Yes, that's the next thing to figure out is like how do we cook with two people in two different places?
Yeah, I'm down for that. I'm totally down for that experiment.
And so, what what do you like to drink? If you're going to be on Mars, is there a go-to kind of drink that you like to have?
I mean, we already know the potatoes grow on Mars, which means I can have vodka. Good. Yep.
So are you a straight vodka guy? Like,
I mean, no, it's like, if I don't know too many people that are straight vodka. I've had the fortunate experience a couple times to drink with people that can drink warm vodka. No, man, like I don't know why people call it a girly drink. I don't know why you have to drink harsh liquor and why that makes you more manly. Whatever. But for me, it's like I want it to taste delicious. The reason why I drink vodka is because I was working at a bar and somebody's like, "Here's beer." And I'm like, "That tastes disgusting, ew," and threw it away. And then somebody said, "Oh, hey, here's a delicious drink of vodka and orange juice." I'm like, "That tastes like slightly turned orange juice, but I can handle that." And then that was it. So
that's really funny that you say that because in college, I was a bartender and the same kind of thing, never beer, but more and vodka. I'm bad to say, but in our dorm, we would have bottles of absolute vodka and we would do shots there in the dorm before going out because it was cheaper to just kind of.
Yeah, pregame. Now it's like, oh, it's pre-gaming before you go out. Like, even when I was doing well, making good money, I wish I would have known about that. I'm like, oh, let's get bottle service. $700 for a table that nobody's going to sit at because we're all dancing, just so that way when I decide to take a break, I can stand up there above all of you and be like, "That's right, I paid way too much money for this. I'm a jackass."
Yeah, it was funny because that was we would do shots of vodka and it was absolute. And listen to Van Halen and then go out. It was the 80s. And so
yeah, it sounds like you would be fun to hang out with. So yeah, mine was we used to my go-to was Stoli. The 007 was kind of my drink. So Stoli O, orange juice, and 7-Up was my drink in my buddy's bar for a really long time. Funny enough, a bar called 007. And I love those. And vodka's always kind of been kind of my thing. So I don't mind. I'll jump around. Like I'll enjoy a good scotch with a friend. I'm not a big whiskey drinker, but if somebody says that they really want me to have a certain specific drink with them or something, I can stomach it because I'm a professional. I'm a professional drinker. That's what I had to do for 20 years. Kind of came with a job, So a boss sees you saying no to a $40, shot of some high-end tequila, they're probably going to yell at you. It's like, all right, I guess I'm drinking.
Well, we're going to Mars. Somewhere, somehow, alcohol's going with us, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I got to give a plug to my boss at Explore Mars. He just wrote a book called Alcohol in Space, and it's all about the things that happened with alcohol in space so far, what we're eventually going to take when we go, what would the bar look like on Mars, and it's really, really well thought out. Because part of that is to get to the alcohol part, we've got to have really, quality agriculture, right? We're going to have to grow our own food and do those things. And eventually that's going to be a thing that comes next, right? So we may have, some of the foods that would be really, really either really simple or they might be extra complicated. It might be, some like one of the big panels we had last year at H2M was talked about all the different ways that we can do, like synthetic biology, using cell-based. Is it cell-based foods? Where basically you take the sample of something, then you grow the food. Like, so you take it from a chicken, you grow the chicken, like the piece of chicken, and the chicken walks by. It's like a really cool thing that we're looking at different ways. And somewhere along the line, somebody's gonna be like, "We got some extra potatoes, y'all."
Yep, that's right. Let's start brewing. We only have a few minutes. It's gone so fast. And I'm like, what do I want to ask you? What is your favorite celestial object and why?
Ooh, there's definitely a couple of them out there, but I've got to probably go with, the Eye of the Cosmos, the thing that started it. So the beginning of Cosmos, when you see it and the Helix Nebula pops up and the CS, Carl's initials pop up and it goes out and says Cosmos. I fell asleep to that TV show so many times and that music. That's a big one for me. So that's when I think about it. And actually, it's a little bit there in the background of the Stardom there. So that was a really cool addition from the guy that designed that, Seb, because he knew how much Cosmos meant to me. So that was really cool of him to do that.
I know I had to pull that just to share with everybody because I really want to talk I know we're going a little bit long, but Stardom, starting that, fantastic following, your motivation and the history of that really quickly.
Sure. Yeah. So originally it was called Opportunity U. Well, the opportunity and the idea is that space can inspire all of us, right? And if it does, then we're going to have the ability to make the world that we live in better. And then from there, we're going to be able to get out, be a multiplanetary species, and do all these incredible things. But nobody could spell the opportunity or Opportunity U. They're like, is it an O or a U? What am I doing here? So I sat down and changed the name a little bit, and I was like Stardom. And it's like, I want space. I want the cosmos to take the spotlight back. When you talk about somebody that's famous, what do we call them? We call them a star. We call them a superstar, right? Why do we call them that? Because the stars guided us. Those are the biggest, brightest thing in the sky. That's what led us to make moves whenever we were, a tribe of people together. We went by the stars. So it's something that's amazing and that's out there, and to find out where we all come from, it's really amazing thing. So I wanted to come up with a platform that could excite people about the amazingness of what we are all part of. Space is a part of you. You are made of stardust. Here's all the amazing things that are out there, and here's all the amazing things that are right here that are within you. That we all come from the same place in deep enough time, right? We're all connected, and so I wanted to do something with that. And so from there, I was like, okay, how can I do this? So like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I started with the one page with just some stuff, and then I started writing about things. I started going to every space and science museum that I could find. I've been to 75 around the world now. So I started writing blogs about that. Then I started writing about space news in just a really simple way of, here's 3 or 4 paragraphs. Here's the cool thing. Now you can take it to the water cooler, or now what we call the digital water cooler, which is social media, right? And have people play around with it. There's no reason that you should feel that you can't be a part of space and that you can't pick up these things. So that's been the goal of it. And it just kind of went and kind of has added all the other cool stuff in, like working with Space Foundation and Explore Mars. So
you know what? I love it. And I love everything that you're doing, and I wish we could talk longer. I got to have you on again, maybe do some cooking. And my big thing is, my motto is space to inspire. So you inspire me through your space and everything that you do in it. So keep doing it.
That's the 4th time you're giving me chills tonight. Stop.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for listening. And you definitely follow Ron and Stardom and everything that he's doing, because it's amazing. Thanks, and have a good night. Any last words?
No, just, it was awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. This was a blast, and I am glad that somehow I was able to partially inspire this, because you've been doing some really awesome shows recently. Except for that one with John Conafay. That guy's...
Well, yeah, All right. Well, you guys have a great night, everybody out there. Thanks for tuning in.